What is up, everybody out there on the internet? It is I, Michael Shockman. Um, Welcome to the first official episode of Arthurian D&D Explained um, here on the DM Shockman Institute channel. I had put out a feeler about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago at this point. I'm not sure. Um, and said that if I got 50 views and a number of different likes, I would start off do a trial video or trial season of like 5 or 6 episodes just to see what you guys thought and to try and put it out there to see what the reception was. And oh boy, did we get some good responses. We got a lot of got 1 or 2 people who tried to sum up what they thought Arthurian D&D could be in the comments, which, while I appreciate the effort, was not necessarily necessary, as it kind of defeats the purpose of me making these videos. So, regardless, I am still going to make them, and this is the first episode. We got like almost 100 views on combined from both channels, and like 20 likes in 2 days. It was kind of insane. Yeah. So for today's first episode, I'm gonna make it kind of an overview of of what it means to play D&D in an Arthurian world. And in order to do that, I have to explain a little bit about I'll have to explain a little bit about what an Arthurian world would be and what it would mean to play D&D in it, and then I will go forward and a little bit beyond that and tell you what I do as part of my interpretation of it in the games that I run. So, from a literary standpoint, Arthurian legend lends itself very, very well to a kind of not high fantasy kind of game, but more of a heroic fantasy, not quite low magic, but like moderate. If like traditional D&D in like the Forgotten Realms is high magic, and stuff like Conan and probably like Dark Sun are low magic, this is kind of somewhere right in the middle, where you magic items are rare, or low-level magic items are rare enough, but artifact and legendary weapons are almost unheard of. They're like god weapons and god items. So to put that into a mechanical standpoint, that would mean that uncommon magical items would be and common magical items are would actually be more like rare and uncommon, respectively, albeit more common than the other stuff. So, yeah, potions, I would say, basic healing potions are more common than regular magic items, although they're more the way that I would see them being flavored would probably be more as alchemical concoctions that use herbalistic magic, rather than just wibbly wobbly timey wimey magic to bring back health. More of the like medicinal type stuff rather than the magical kind of thing. But yeah, I would say that standard healing potions are pretty common, if only in small amounts. And greater healing potions and things beyond standard they get successively less common as you go, unless of course you're in like a big city, which are those in themselves are very rare. uh, so, with that out of the way, and that being said, I want to kind of touch on the cultural dynamic. Whereas with, like, again, with Forgotten Realms, with it being a high magic society, you've got big cities that are more common. You've got the traditional the traditional magic shops and stuff like that. You have dragons as a commonplace thing, if feared as they are, and undead are seen as kind of just kind of run of the mill. In an Arthurian world, though, since it's more heavily tied to real world stuff, you have to think of um, the world as it was back in, like, the, whether you want to call it the migrational period or the Dark Ages, that kind of thing, and basically be able to think of all the different cities that were there, like Rome and Byzantium, that being Constantinople, or Baghdad, uh, London, or Londinium as it was known back then, Jorvik, the city of York, things like that, Paris, stuff like that. These are all real cities. You just have to think of them. You just kind of have to shift your mentality towards away, or I guess away from real world stuff and more towards real world plus. Uh, that's the way I like to think about it anyway. Now, what I will say is that for my particular take on it, I took great inspiration uh, in creating my particular rendition of the Arthurian world, which includes all of a large part of North Africa, an altered version of the Mediterranean, different parts of, like, uh, Gaul and France and everything like that, as well as Rome, and a different thing of Scandinavia and everything. And I attributed kingdoms to them. Now, full credit goes to Mythic Entertainment for the inspiration for this, because when I was growing up, one of my favorite MMOs was Dark Age of Camelot. So, for copyright reasons, I will say that it was a heavy inspiration, and a lot of the credit, and all of the credit goes to them for the my personal rendition of an Arthurian world, that being the primary three story-based uh, nations of Midgard, which is basically Scandinavia, Albion, which historically was the name of Britain before the Romans got there, which is basically the British Isles, and Hibernia, which is that of Ireland. Um, I'm sure you guys are seeing at this point, I probably would have put in a picture of my map. And I have since added extra things. I also added the old Imperium down by where my version of Italy, as well as the Empire of the Crescent Moon, which is kind of like the Sassanid Islamic Empire, as well as a new one called the Empire of the Northern Star, which is kind of like a combination of I guess you could call it the Eastern Roman Empire mixed with Russia and a couple of other things. And then you've also got, depending on which version I'm showing you, you've also got the or the Kingdom of Francia, in basically what is this world's version of France. And then you've also got the other smaller kingdoms like the White Dragon Concordat, and a couple of other places as well. So that is my take on the world. Obviously, you guys are welcome, and I actually encourage you to make up your own thing, and please leave down in the comments with what your interpretation of this would be. Kind of to sum up everything, because I know I've been kind of rambling, and this is going to be a different form of video series, whereas instead of it being really scripted, it's basically me giving you guys my personal opinions on how to do this, and this just being the entry episode is a little bit more freeform. So apologies if that bothers you. But to summarize, think of Arthurian D&D as less about low magic or high magic, and less about all the implications, and think of it more like if you, whatever your interpretation of this will be, keep this phrase in mind: Dark Ages Europe, Dark Age world plus. So that and the plus being magic. Low levels of magic are relatively common, if a bit feared or intrigued, in being intriguing to some cultures and feared by others. And high level magic is, depending on how high it is almost unheard of, if not completely unattainable. That being said, this is the world of knights and of barbarians and of the Vikings and of the Saxons, and all the different things that were going on at that time. So what I try and do, as kind of a summary, is I try and take my extensive, what I like to think of as an extensive knowledge, historical knowledge of the history of migration/Dark Age era Europe, everything from the Moorish invasion of Iberia and France, and the stopping of that invasion by Charles Martel, to the time of Charlemagne, the reign of King Alfred the Great, the various pieces of information having to do with the Byzantine Empire, the fall of Rome, all that stuff. I like to take those events, what I know about those events, and be able to spin them in kind of a fantastical kind of way, to basically be able to apply more magical and magically oriented story-based hooks for my players in this world. So I highly recommend you do that. I will say this though, if you don't know a lot about, I believe that if you don't know a lot about that era of history, or if you don't know anything about it, it's going to be kind of hard for you to really be, I would assume, be like interested in running a game like this. Not only, not to mention, it's going to be really hard to, I would imagine it would be really hard to be able to properly run a world without knowing what the limits are, what the variables would be, and what kind of ratios you need to change and alter in order to make it more balanced for this kind of thing. So, if you don't know a lot about it, I highly recommend you check out, you look on YouTube for like documentaries on various pieces of Dark Age and otherwise culture and stuff like that, just to get a quick little primer. I might end up putting in the links down in the description of this video, some links to various videos that I like to watch to kind of give a kind of primer in what would be good, not necessarily in terms of D&D itself, but more in terms of the historical aspect of things, so that you can kind of get an idea what you're signing up for if you want to run in an Arthurian world, and so you are better prepared when you do. So check that out. I think I've rambled on enough. It's been 14 minutes, over 14 minutes that I've been rambling. I hope this video was coherent at least a little bit. To kind of officially summarize at this point, remember, Dark Ages world plus being magic. You have to be able to modify and alter and adapt your expectation of what a D&D game is supposed to be for this kind of setting. You have to know at least a little bit about the setting in which you're placing it, not just in terms of the fantasy, but also in terms of the history, I think, in order to be able to run a decent game in this era and in this world. And last but not least, and this is something I haven't really touched on, but I will say it right here. Please, 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 if you're gonna run in this world, keep in mind that despite what I said about knowing a lot about history, there are certain aspects of history that are not okay in the modern era, like pillaging and the R word and various aspects of chauvinism and slavery and all that stuff. Not okay. So running a game in this world, you will need to either completely remove those things and make those not a thing, which is what I generally do, or if you're wanting to run a really hardcore kind of game, just take the responsibility off of you. And they have sheets online that you can. I think they have them on Wizards of the Coast website. They're like consent sheets, like check-in sheets that you can print out or send out digitally to your players. And basically, is a list of different things that they are okay with and that they're not. Um, they have little check boxes by them. There's like 20 of them on the list, I think. And you basically just need to find out if anybody's not okay with if one person, depending on how many people you're running for, find out what everybody's okay with, get consent to do stuff. Consent is important, and you don't ever want to make someone feel uncomfortable, because trust me, I, in the past, have made the mistake of doing things without getting consent, and it nearly destroyed a couple of friendships. Thankfully, everybody understood that it was my first time doing this, and I have since learned from those mistakes. So take it from me, don't make that mistake. Get consent. Run a game that your people are going to be uh, okay with, and they're going to enjoy, and enjoy it yourself. Um, there's a kind of final disclaimer I will say, in my opinion, because of the moderately extensive amount of research you have to do to be able to properly run an Arthurian game, even beyond what I'm going to be teaching you in this series. Uh, just know it's okay if you don't feel comfortable or capable of running in this kind of setting. It's not for everybody, and uh, I would not blame anybody for not either being interested or not being comfortable with running or being run through it. So that's okay. Anyway, guys, I've rambled on enough. It's nearly 18 minutes, and I am going to let you guys go. So thank you so much. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Also, be sure to ring the bell icon so you never miss out when our videos go live. I'm Michael Shockman. I've been your host and commentator. And remember, as always, guys, keep it real, keep it safe, keep it healthy. And we'll see you guys again soon in the Arthurian world. Later, everybody.